tossers have thrown it out the door with their behaviour this week. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely look at themselves in the mirror and wonder what the have they been doing. They're hissing at us and calling us cheats in the Lord's long room, and they have the gall to say, talk to us about the spirit of cricket. Absolute bullshit.
There's a big appeal that's hit him on the pad. He's out. Lions gone. New South Wales are 9 down. Onto Sydney Road, and it's hit a car. Oh, I think it's hit a car. What a way to bring up your 50.
All you want is to leave it all behind. Now there is a simple remedy to stay fit for all eternity.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Cricket Unfiltered. I am Menners and I am joined by Jono Baruch. We're here to preview the Champions Trophy semi-final, Australia taking on India. Also wrap up a bit of cricket news. But firstly, I want to welcome Jono back. I got a bit of feedback that I was quite rude to you last time, mainly around Usman Khawaja, who then went and scored a double hundred in Sri Lanka. So, Jono, thanks for coming back despite that. And he did exactly what you said he would and scored runs.
No worries at all, man. It's always great to be back. I'll accept your apology happily. I'll put it down to me. Oh, let's just say some guess, others know. Particularly when it comes to what cricketers can do, you also fall into that category. It's great to be back.
Yeah, it's great to have you. A lot to talk about. First thing I wanted to tick off is, as I was recording last week's Cricket Unfiltered, I said on that I thought Matt Kuhnemann would be cleared by the ICC. And then while we were recording, it was announced he was cleared. So thank God I got that one right. I would have looked like a real idiot. And I said, I was definitely going to get done. And it came up during the recording that he got off. So Kuhnemann escapes. The testing showed that his actual arm bending is well below the 15%. Most of the time it's well below 10%. And it has also come out that umpire Joel Wilson was the one that pushed for him to get tested and for him to be reported. Now, Jono, if you've seen the amount of decisions overturned by Joel Wilson when he's umpiring, he's the last person that should be calling someone a chucker.
The only thing I thought I was going to say on this, and I think it was Dan Breddick from The Age who put out a tweet. And it was like, Joel, you need to reverse your decision, which is possibly the only thing that came to mind. And when this thing blew up, you're thinking, well, how has it not happened before? That I'm sure it's been done to death. That this guy's played over 100 professional cricket games, and not once has it been raised as an issue. And it's like, okay, maybe when an opposition spinner's taking you to pieces in your backyards, then you can clutch at straws. But like you said, Menace, I think this was only ever going to come back one way. And good for Matt Kuhnemann. He doesn't have any more cases to answer and he can get on with it.
Yeah, and in the end, this has been such a shame because he did so well in Sri Lanka and he came back and instead of being able to bask in the glory, he had this sort of hanging over his head. Look, I think the ICC does need to be vigilant on actions, but I do think they maybe need to look at the system and work out exactly, when and how they report people and how it's treated, because this has just served to actually be, a tremendous burden on Kuhnemann when it sounds like he was never really even close to breaking the rules.
100%. And you look at cricketers in Australia, like particularly fringe and domestic cricketers who have been called out for suspect actions, whether it be by Cricket Australia or through other bodies in the world. Like a few years ago, Chris Green was caught called for having a suspect action. Like, no case to answer to, but you speak about it, it definitely stays with you as a bit of a stigma and a stereotype which will follow him. And like, while we're all happy for Matt that he'll be able to continue his cricketing career and his international career, he'll probably be on the plane to the West Indies in the middle of the year as that second spinner. But there'll still be that, little area of contention that will hang over him, and it's unfair. And I'm not quite sure. I'm not a biomechanist, man, as I don't know how you can change the testing system or what how to make it fairer on the bowlers. But surely there has to be another way.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a less public way of sorting it out so someone's reputation isn't dragged through the mud. Anyway, so Kuhnemann cleared. Great news for him, and the ICC and other stuff up. Just add it to the list. And speaking of ICC stuff ups, let's talk about the Champions Trophy. So I guess let's look back firstly. I haven't recorded a show since Australia took on Afghanistan, and in that match, it was a no result. Australia bowled out Afghanistan for 273. Ben Dwarshuis was the best bowler, taking 3 for 47. Then Australia was cruising at 1 for 109. Travis Head was 59 not out off just 40 balls. Smith was 19 not out of 22 balls. And they were humming along at 8.5 runs per over and set for a pretty clinical victory. You feel against Afghanistan. You never know, though. And then the rain came and there was a no result, which is the 5th out of the last 8 games for Australia in the Champions Trophy that is a no result. For those that are wondering, say in T20 cricket, I think you just need 5 overs to make a game. In 50 over cricket at the Champions Trophy, it needs to be a minimum of 20 overs. So they were quite a few overs short. Takeaways from that game, obviously Head in superb form, but my big thing was Steve Smith had a brain fade. So I don't know if you saw it, but Noor Ahmed was running between the wickets. The ball hadn't come in from the outfield yet, and it was the end of the over. Josh Inglis gets the ball, and Noor Ahmed had already left his crease to go and chat to his other batting partner between overs, but the ball wasn't dead yet. Inglis takes the bails off, appeals, and then for some reason Steve Smith withdrew the appeal, and I don't understand. We went through Lord's 2023 hell. Australia needs some principles. Like, we need some principles. I didn't like the sportsmanship from Smith. He should have just told Ahmed, on your bike.
Well, I didn't see this, Menace, so you're going to have to paint a picture for me. What over of the game was it in? I assume because Noor Ahmed's batting, they're probably 8 or 9 wickets down.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
So
it was right at it was like the 47th over. Australia was, quite comfortably on top, and I think Steve Smith just went, I can't be bothered with the hassle. Like, if I go through with this and is given out, it'll just be another reason for the terrible scribes in England to have a go at Australia's sportsmanship again. And I just think he went, nah, can't be bothered. But I'm like, no, this guy was out. Like, it was clear the ball wasn't in Inglis's gloves. It wasn't dead. And he just wandered off. I mean, what is this? If Australia stands for anything, it's for following the rules.
Well, if Australia stood for anything, then there's the whole discussion of should they even be playing Afghanistan. But that's a whole other can of worms that we're not going to go into. But I think you're right in the sense that Smith couldn't be stuffed really with dealing with the consequences and with being so far late in the game, so far late in the innings. The game was pretty well halfway to being in their pocket anyway, with knowing how Afghanistan was scoring and the batting power that they had up the top, that it was probably just a hassle that I was like, you know what, we can live without this. And from the way that they were going in the batting innings, it sounded like they were going to get through pretty comfortably. And even though the rain came and they ended up getting through, it was interesting to see, Menace, that with all the washouts, that Australia have only had 1 win in this tournament since 2009, which is kind of funny. And you look at it particularly with their record in 50 over cricket leading up to this event. Something about Australia and playing in these ICC tournaments, particularly 50 over tournaments, where it's just like there's a sense of comfortability knowing where the games are at. And I think that also played into Smith's mind, knowing that we're playing Afghanistan. We should, I say should because they got beaten by Afghanistan last time they played them, albeit a different format. We should be in a comfortable position to win this game, despite what our 11 looks like or how many runs they have on the board. So I think that's certainly an element to it. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think definitely. Like, I think we were feeling pretty comfortable, and Australia's been pretty confident in this tournament. Smith just didn't want to, I think, get into it, and he decided just to take the safe road. So, yeah, disappointed because I think we should have, I think underhand dismissals are an Australian specialty, and we should stick to it.
Good one.
But you're right. So Australia are into the semi-finals now, having only won one game, but it was a big one, beating England. England lost all three of their games. Afghanistan basically finished a point below Australia. They got a point, and they from our washout, and they beat England. And South Africa topped our group. So South Africa and Australia go through in 1 and 2, and in the other group, India and New Zealand go through. India on top because overnight India defeated New Zealand by 44 runs. So Australia will play India in Dubai on Tuesday night. New Zealand will play South Africa in Pakistan on Wednesday night. And I guess the biggest talking point over the weekend was the farcical nature of this tournament. Because India are playing their games in Dubai, both South Africa and Australia had to leave Pakistan and go to Dubai on Sunday so they could be there, and whoever was staying to play India didn't have to travel like the day before the game. So they flew in there on Sunday, and they knew one of the teams was actually going to fly back to Pakistan to play in the semi-final. So apparently South Africa got there at lunchtime yesterday and are flew back basically in the middle of the night to go back to Pakistan to get ready for their semi-final against New Zealand. So, I mean, this just displays how badly this tournament has been organized. The fact that India's semi-final was the first one and not the second one, because if they were the second one, you might have avoided the situation of the travel. And we know why India isn't going to Pakistan. I get that. But I think it's taken a huge shine off this tournament. Like, John, I'll pose to you this way. If India wins, everyone's just going to be like, well, ho-hum, it was set up for them to win. If another team wins, it'll be a great achievement, though, because they'll have overcome these obstacles where everything was set up for India and they overcame them.
I'm sure it's been said a few times, but has there ever been a tournament in any sport where the home side, where the host nation has had like the least home field advantage ever? It just feels that it feels like India are playing away, but they're playing at home, and all the accommodations are being made to just suffice them. Like as you said, if India wins, like, yeah, fair enough, just stick it off. This trophy was put on, this competition was put on so you could fill your trophy cabinet with another trophy that you've set up and orchestrated to win. And if you don't win it, yeah, it will be a great achievement for the nation that beats them, but it'll also be the funniest thing in the cricketing world that's probably ever been. Maybe even funnier than anything that England have ever said or done if India somehow end up watching this. So it'll certainly be an achievement. And we've seen this so many times, just the way fixturing works. I know organisation and getting a tournament together at the last minute kind of goes hand in hand with the ICC. So we shouldn't expect anything new from that sense. But even just seeing now the lengths that they're going to sort of accommodate India and knowing the people in charge there, it does make it a little bit like it. Sports washing is probably not the right word, but it's probably the sense of just like, we know we're pandering to the superpower of the sport here to try and make them happy. And as you said, it's on a platter for them to go and win this tournament. But if they do win this tournament, it's just like, okay, India wins. Lol, what's next? Just move on.
I agree. And we saw with the T20 World Cup last year where the fixtures were set up for Indian TV, and India got, to play their semi-final where they wanted, when they wanted. And that, of course, they go on and win the T20 World Cup. And I think I sit on the fence with the Champions Trophy anyway. Like, to me, it is the poor cousin of the 50 over World Cup. And as an Australian fan, we kick ass in 50 over World Cup. So, it's not like we're a nation like India that doesn't kick ass in 50 over World Cups, that needs to win like a tournament to feel better about themselves. We have 650 over World Cups. The Champions Trophy is a sort of nice little sort of aperitif to that. So I sit on the fence with the Champions Trophy, but this situation this time with the travel and the conditions has made me even less enthusiastic about it. I wanted to beat England. I want to see Australia winning, but if Australia so Australia's playing in Dubai Tuesday night, spin-friendly conditions, an Indian side that hasn't lost the game this tournament. They love 50 over cricket. India start as heavy favourites, but if Australia could pull a miracle like they did in the 2023 World Cup final, it'll be a great achievement for this young team, with a lot of the big players missing, and to give them that confidence in, say, the 50 over World Cup.
Oh, it'd be amazing. And I mentioned before how the form line leading into this tournament was really not crush hot at all. They'd won 2 games in the last 18 months or something like that. So there was no form to really go in on. And particularly you saw those games in Sri Lanka at the back end of the test tour. They were really not good. So for them to be able to, one, make the semi-final, and if they were to go on and win the semi-final, that's already validation for that group of players. But I think more so as well, Menace, for the Australian public, where I think you see the sentiment around is just like, this generation of test players, they better keep playing until the next, keep playing forever, because the next generation's not ready to handle international cricket yet. Well, not everything is linear, and I think over time, they haven't played a lot of cricket this Champions Trophy, but if they were to get through to the final of this tournament, I think it shows that, okay, maybe this group isn't 100% ready, and they're being propped up a bit by their senior players, and Travis Head, Steve Smith, Josh Inglis has made a fantastic 100 and is proving to be, in that next leadership group of Australian players. Alex Carey's in some of the best form of his career right now, so they're really doing the work, propping it up, and they're leading the way. But I guess we use the words emotional nourishment as well, Menas, through results, and that can really be the thing that can really catapult and kickstart this next generation of Australian players to prove to them and the Australian public that we can be the custodians of this team moving forward.
Is emotional nourishment an AFL term?
Oh, we use it sometimes in the sense where if something's not going well for your team, pardon me, and then you have an out of the box win, or you have a player re-signing, or a player just come into the side and show some really good signs and perform really well in the seniors. That's the sense of emotional nourishment that you get through winning. And if you're a supporter base that's been kicked and been down in the dumps because your season's not going well, and then all of a sudden you get a win, or you get a piece of really good news like your star player re-signs, that's the nourishment that you need as a supporter base, just to lift the mood, I guess. So okay. we use it quite a bit. I'm sure people will use it around most sports. It's a nice thing, apparently. It's a nice thing when your sports teams do well and they don't leave you down the dumps. I know the footy season's about to kick off, so hopefully not.
Well, I think the cricket fans around Australia have been well nourished after such a great season. 100%. Wonderful home summer, wonderful Big Bash. The women's team on fire. It has been a great season. So if Australia can get some more emotional nourishment against India, it will be a big win. They're coming up against a side. This is the batting order for India. Sharma, Gill, Kohli, Iyer, Pandya, and Axar Patel at 6, and then Rahul at 7, Jadeja at 8. That is a very strong lineup. I think it's going to be the biggest challenge for this young pace attack, Dwarshuis, Johnson, Ellis, if they go with those 3. That's going to be a huge challenge. And then we've got, and Kohli coming off 100 against Pakistan, 50 over cricket is his favoured format. And then, you look at their bowling attack. depending on the conditions, they could go in with 3 spinners. They could throw Kuldeep Yadav at us, Chakravarti, who took 5 wickets last night, Shami and Jadeja as their sort of main 4 bowlers. Not sure they play Harshit Rana, but that is a very strong Indian 50-over team.
Yeah, it is. I don't think you need to play Harshit Rana, particularly when you've got the likes of Akshar Patel and Jadeja as your spinning all-rounders that can easily get 10 overs out of each of them. So that is a really long batting lineup. They're batting all the way down. Like, to even have Akshar Patel in your top 6, just remembering the Border Gavaskar in 2023, where you'd think you'd get, okay, India's 7 down, can roll through them, and then you have Akshar Patel come out and he whacks 80. So he is very capable with the bats. So it is going to be a challenge, but we just spoke about the tremendous opportunity that lies in front of this group of players. And I think also for this group of bowlers, Menace, particularly Spencer Johnson and Nathan Ellis, who have kind of been the two that are really have been earmarked as the next leaders of this pace attack. Dwarshuis is close to 30 or possibly over 30 years old now. So he's getting his Australian run quickly now. But for Ellis and for Johnson to really put their flag in the ground and say, no, this is our tournament. This is where we're going to really show that we can lead this next generation of the Australian white ball attack, could be a big moment for them.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because Johnson is really like Stark 2.0. He has that ability, and we saw it against Afghanistan. He has that ability to bowl an absolute jaffer and just get you a wicket. And he also can like ping one, 4 foot wide of leg stump that goes for 4 wides. So he is really a Stark 2.0. You get the wicket taking balls and a bit of the craziness that you get with Stark. But Nathan Ellis is such an underrated bowler, so good in the big bash. He's continuing in these conditions to really excel. He just bowls a different trajectory. He varies his pace. He bowls a little cutters. He takes pace off the ball especially when the ball's keeping low. It's really hard for batters to get on top of him. So I think he'll be crucial in Dubai. We've seen it. It assists the spinners. It'll assist Ellis as well because he's that slower, lower trajectory. So I think Ellis is, hugely important. And then obviously, though, there is, a lot going to need to be a change in the Australian team. So Matt Short has been ruled out of the tournament. Cooper Connolly is coming in as his replacement, but I'm not sure I'd replace him in the 11. I wouldn't put Connolly in the 11 with Short. I'd think about, if the conditions in Dubai really favour spin, I'd think about a Tanveer Sangha coming in. And although he hasn't played in the tournament, he could be your 3rd spinner. Or maybe you pick an Aaron Hardy as another bowling option. And, he can bowl quick. So if Dwarshuis or Ellis or Johnson goes the journey, then you've got another option who can bowl some overs for you. I'm not sure you'd open with Hardy where Short was, but you could definitely bat him down the order. I'd pick Hardy above Connolly, but if I turned up at Dubai and it was a raging turner, give Tanveer Sangha a go. Fuck it, let's go with the kid.
Yeah, I was thinking about this morning as I was preparing to come on Menace, so just going through the options. I rule out Fraser McGurk straight away, even though it does put a bit more pressure on Travis Head, because Short was there to kind of go with him. So it's not just Head who has to go crazy from ball 1. So you definitely lose that from the top of the order. You can promote a Marnus, you can promote an Inglis who can come in and do the job, depending on what type of person, pardon me, you want up the top to go with Travis Head. Carey's open for Australian white ball cricket before, but whether or not you want the 2 left-handers up at the top of the order, really, it's really up to them in the conditions. I think I landed on Hardy just purely for the sense that he can strengthen the batting and the bowling. I think we've seen.
Look at us. We agree. Look at this.
Yeah, I think that's also mainly come down to, if you look in the previous games that Australia's played, they've gone pretty much everywhere to find the 10 overs from their 5th bowler. Like Marnus has bowled, Smith's bowled, Head's bowled, Maxwell's bowled. And so particularly if it is going to be a spinning wicket, and one of the quicks, as you said, is going the journey. Hardy can be there, and he can bowl that stump to stump and hold up an end. He's got a good off cutter, and he can really skid it through as well. So there's different variations there, and of course he knows how to hit a long ball. I wouldn't necessarily open him, as you said, but I could see a world where he does come into that top four and Marnus goes up top. So it's interesting. I wouldn't pick Fraser McGurk. I like your call about Tanvi Sangha, but it really does depend on the wicket.
Yeah. And I was also thinking about sort of Australia's chances in this game. And if ever Australia is prepared to face India on a spinning deck, it is actually right now. Most of these players have just come out of that series in Sri Lanka where they had to take on the Sri Lankan spinners in favourable conditions. So you look at Australia's top batting order. You've got Travis Head, great form. It's certainly India's bogeyman. Like we saw the way they were celebrating during the summer when they got him out. And, I expect them to be very nervous if he gets going. But then you've got Smith, Labuschagne, Inglis, and Carey, all who played the spin really, really well in Sri Lanka. So they're going to be well equipped. They're in the zone of reverse sweeps and laps. Then you got Maxwell, who can put the cherry on top and smack a few around at the end. So I think, from Australia's batting point of view, they're actually in a really good position to take on Jadeja, Kuldeep Yadav and Chakravarti in the sort of form they're in.
Yeah, I agree. The slight concern is that they haven't really had a hit since that England game. So the entire South Africa game got washed out, and then only Head, Short, and Steve Smith got to have a hit during the Afghanistan game. So that's probably the slight concern that I have, that they haven't done a lot of competitive hitting. I'm sure they've been netting a lot and having a bit of fun swinging on the golf course as well, as you do. But that's probably the only concern that I have, is that while India they've played 3 games so far, they're battle hardened. They've played some semi-decent opposition as well, whereas Australia,
they haven't had to travel. They haven't had to travel at all.
They haven't had to travel. They've had everything done for them. So it's been... I think everyone's kind of going to be watching this game, and as maybe even England, you never know, watching this game and just going like, if Australia can win, it will be the funniest thing in the world that India have botched a tournament that has been given to them on a silver platter.
Yeah. So I guess I'm going to pick Australia to win, because I think India have it all set up for them, and I think there's still a bit of an aura about when they face Australia. They've losing the 2023 final, losing the World Test Championship final, losing the Border Gavaskar Trophy this season. I feel Australia's going to go in there and snatch it, and I would love that. I want justice for Pakistan. I want Australia to win. I want the final to be in Pakistan, and I don't want India to just get given a Champions Trophy. So all I'm saying to Smith is, if one of the idiots wanders out of their crease, don't retract the peel again. Just give out on your bike. Yeah,
I agree. I also think there's a bit of extra meaning for Smith as well, Menes. He's done it all as an Australian player, but the one thing he hasn't done is he hasn't lifted an ICC trophy as captain of Australia.
Absolutely.
Which I'm sure he'd want to do.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, he absolutely would. So that's Tuesday night Australian time. It's going to be a really terrific game. Get around your Amazon Prime subscriptions to watch that one. The other game is New Zealand v South Africa. I find this a really tough one. Both those teams are pretty evenly matched. If I'm sort of leaning one way, it's New Zealand, just because they actually have a pretty good history of ICC events of losing finals. So I think there's a good chance they make it to the final and lose.
Yeah. South Africa are in some pretty tip-top form at the moment.
Yes,
Just from looking through, they've gotten themselves to a really nice spot in international cricket across all 3 formats in the men's. So they're ticking on well. I'm sure we'll get into them a little bit more as we tick closer to that World Test Championship final. But they're going well. They're yet to break their duck for an ICC tournament final win in the men's in particular, which I'm sure, I'm sure it might be a rung down because it's not a World Cup or a World Test Championship. It is only a Champions Trophy, but I'm sure they'll be hungry to start filling out their cabinet with some ICC silverware as well. So I think I'm going to pick them. Sorry, Dad. I know you're a New Zealand supporter, but I'm going to pick them purely because of the form that they're in and they've shown. And if Markram and Klaassen get going, there's really no stopping them.
An Australia-South Africa final would be a good one as a nice little precursor to the World Test Championship final.
Indeed.
All right, so you've gone South Africa, I've gone New Zealand, I've gone Australia. Who are you going?
I'm going Australia as well.
There we go. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in to Cricket Unfiltered. I'll be back after the semi-final at some point to review Australia v India. Also, lots of news from the weekend. New South Wales won the WNCL. South Australia won the inaugural Dean Jones Cup. But we will get into all that. Now, Jono, I know you're down in Melbourne, and
yes.
Begrudgingly, I'm allowing you to bring up AFL. Tell the listeners about your new Substack.
Thanks, Manners. It's a new project of mine for the footy season. It's called the Gardener Stand. So if you want to tune into and read some work about the footy, in particular, particularly with a navy blue scent on it, sign up to the Gardener Stand. You can find it on Twitter. You can find it on Instagram. You can find it on my Twitter page as well at John O'Baruch. It's all there. Thank you in advance for subscribing.
So if you're a Carlton fan, it's like you have to be involved. But do you talk about other football?
We do talk about other football, mainly other issues in the game that will arise. And as the season goes on, we'll have a piece. I think we'll have a piece coming out this week about ACL injuries and just the injury rate that's kind of taken the AFL by curse this preseason. It's been ridiculous to see just good players drop like flies. So there's a little bit of work coming on that. So we're looking forward to that. It's good. Season starts in a few days. Cyclone Arthur pending. So see how we go.
Well, Jono, thank you very much for joining me. If you're an AFL fan, hit up, make sure you subscribe to Jono's Substack. You've been listening to the Cricket Unfiltered podcast. I'm Menners. Go Australia in the semi-final. We'll be back afterwards to review.